Hello, and welcome to Robert's Guitars and Gear. I'm Robert. Today I want to talk about practice amps. Talk a little bit about what I think is critical in a practice amp, and then we'll talk about some things that are nice to have, and I'll show you a couple of options that I think illustrate these points and maybe help you make a good decision about your amp. So, first of all, what do you really need in a practice amp? What's a must-have? Well, I think number one in a practice amp is it's got to be able to get on and functioning quickly so that you can practice with it without waiting for things to warm up or waiting to fuss with knobs or things like that. You've got to be able to turn it on quick, be playing quick. Number two is you've got to have a range of tones that are easily at your fingertip, that you can play clean, with some crunch, with more distortion, maybe some effects you can turn quickly on easily right there at the panel so that you can get a range of tones and do this quickly without having to log on to a computer and spend a lot of time monkeying around with that. I think number three is you absolutely have to have a headphone jack and an aux in. Now, the headphone jack is simply for this. Most of us have neighbors or family members that maybe don't share the joy of your learning how to play guitar as much as you do. And you want to practice and play without disturbing them. So a headphone jack is vital. The aux in, because you really want to be able to play along with some kind of backing, whether that's a drum track that you have on your phone or YouTube videos or whatever. Being able to play backing tracks is vital. Now, the aux in can be by Bluetooth or it can be by old-fashioned cable. Maybe the next thing on my list is that you can not only have a diverse range of tones, but maybe you can easily get at some very well-known or famous tones that can easily have you having fun with different sounds that you really would love to capture, or sounds from that you enjoy in your music. Now, those things I think really make a practice amp great. Now, where people get crossed up is, how about an amp that's really suitable for performance? When I say performance, I mean in a range from maybe jamming with some friends to actually being able to get out and perform in a group. Obviously, as a learner, these are things that are maybe in your future more. But this thinking often influences where people go, and maybe they get into amps that don't make as much sense for them. So in my view, a practice amp at the high end of what we're going to talk about absolutely will be able to support your doing that, to play and jam and perform. But that's not your first purpose of a practice amp. Certainly there's some practice amps that satisfy all of that, and we can quickly talk about those. So let me just illustrate that. I'm going to illustrate that using a couple choices that I have conveniently at hand. I have many practice amps. In fact, I'm going to put my whole list in the description so that you can see that. But I'm going to talk about these key features and how this all plays together. So let's take a look. All right, so a first choice, which covers an awful lot of what we just talked about, is what we might call a headphone amp. These are amps that plug in your guitar, you plug your headphones in, and one way or another give you your tones that you're playing and listening through your headphones. Now, the classic of this genre, the original one really, is the Vox Amplug. And that's a self-contained solution that there's different versions, but each one lets you push buttons and such to get different tones. And they sound great, and they work really well. Now, technology's moved, and this is an example of a headphone amp that gives you a wide array of tones that you program through your phone or your mobile device using Bluetooth. What's cool about these, and this is the NUX Mighty amp, what's cool about this one, and Fender's just announced a Mustang headphone amp similar to this, is that you're using your phone to do the heavy lifting. It's a lot easier than pushing buttons in a certain sequence or whatever on the amp. Not that you can't do that, But you can get on your phone, you can pick an amp model, you can pick levels of distortion and pick all your other settings, put effects in there. This one stores 4 different presets that you program through your phone, and then you're just pushing this big button to cycle through those presets. I'm going to tell you it works great. What's great about it is it's by definition silent for everybody else that you're sharing space with, and it's easily tunable, as I said, through your phone. And what's really great is it covers that aux-in aspect too, because this one for sure, what you can do is play backing tracks that come with the app, and I can also play YouTube videos and play along with those, and really any other music source that you can have through your phone. So a headphone amp is a really, really great option, and the good news is they are not expensive. Okay, so what if, besides playing for yourself, you would like to play in a group or at least be able to hear yourself and not just use headphones? Well, now you're talking about a classic practice amp. So this is a Fender LT50. I also have the LT25. We'll get to the particular benefits of this in a minute, but what I want to highlight is, number one, here's your headphone jack. Easy, quick, you're off to the races. Here's the aux-in. Right now I have it connected to the computer so I can play tracks off of YouTube or Metronome. The other features we talked about, I dial this dial and I'm in different tones. And it's fast, it's easy. You don't need to hook up to the computer to make this work. Of course, you can hook up to the computer and do lots of great things with each of these models, and you can make your own. There's infinite possibilities, but you're really playing quickly. Of course, being a solid state amp, it turns on fast, and it also has an onboard tuner. So I'm going to say that this sort of amp is just a great choice. Again, you can be down in that 10 watt to 25 watt solid state amp, and you're really looking at something that's best for private practice, really not going to be a performance amp, but can be completely fantastic for your own practice. Now this one is 50 watts, and when we talk about a 50 watt solid state amp, now you're talking about something that is totally in the realm of possibility for jamming with friends and maybe performance under certain circumstances. You'll see endless debate online about, well, how many watts do I need to play with a drummer? Well, first of all, as a learner, we're not going to be worried about that for a little while probably. But when that time comes, 50 watt solid state will get you in the conversation. As I said, what confuses people is they're maybe thinking about the performance amp when what they really need is simply to play every day and get better. So I think these amps are just fantastic, but I will say that the Boss Katana, and I have one of those, is a great amp. It meets this criteria also, and as a 50 watt amp at the starting level, absolutely gets you there to be able to do some performing. Now, if you're going to go that route, you certainly are going to want a practice amp with a foot pedal that lets you switch between your presets quickly. So as an example, the LT50 has a really nice foot pedal that lets you store 8 presets, plus you can operate the tuner through the foot pedal, and it has a stomp mode to turn effects on and off. Just fantastic. So even though fundamentally you're not going to see a gigging professional playing an amp like this, it doesn't compare to a tube amp in terms of the quality of the sound. You absolutely can use this to jam, maybe to accompany yourself if that's the kind of music you're into. Lots of good things can come out of this. Now, finally, I mentioned the word tube amp. You can do lots of research, and I think playing, and what you'll find is unless you're in the really, really exclusive premium solid state amps, you're going to find that the tube amps just sound better. I have two different tube amps, and they just sound better. However, they don't meet the criteria we talked about for practice amps. You can't turn them on and be playing quickly. They want to warm up. Some are maybe more flakier than others with that, but they got to warm up. Second, you're not going to see headphone jacks. So if you're playing a tube amp, you're going to be sharing that playing with everybody near you. And the honest truth is that tube amps, they're loud. And to get them to sound right at all, you're playing at least a pretty decent volume. So you are absolutely going to share your playing with everybody that's near you. Now, it's going to sound good. At least the tones are going to sound good. But there's nothing private about it. You are typically not going to see an aux in. What you get in a tube amp is our amp that's ready to perform, and to perform, with great tone. Most gigging professionals are going to run some kind of pedal into their tube amp, a multi-effects pedal or a pedal board. As a learner, hey, that's fun stuff. It's fun stuff to look forward to. It's fun stuff to experiment with. But none of that really fits the profile of trying to turn your amp on and play quickly. It's quite the opposite of that. So my last thoughts for you are that I really believe a dedicated practice amp is going to be best for you. This is going to look like a solid state amp. You can turn it on quickly. Ideally, it's got an onboard tuner. You tune up. You can start dialing effects in and go. You can plug in your headphone. You can plug in your aux or connect by Bluetooth, and you're cooking. And you've not taken a lot of time. At the very high end of these, your 50 watt or so with a foot pedal, a decent foot pedal, gives you at least 4 channels. You can take that to your jam session or to your gig as you start to get into playing out with people, and you can do just fine with that. If that's not something you imagine, honestly, a 10 watt, 25 watt solid state is going to be fine with you. I think with those minimum features, you're good to go. Now, there's been a lot of attention about the Spark amp. Spark amp offers all those things. It's 40 watts, but it also offers some features where it's jamming with you, or it's developing backing tracks for you. Is that worth it? I have no idea. I haven't used one. But be honest with yourself about whether those features are really realistically something that will be a novelty for you, or whether that's something you'd really use to help you practice. If those extra features will help you practice and get better, fantastic. I will say this, I believe just about any of the leading solid state practice type amps are going to do a great job for you and get you playing quickly and help you hear a bunch of different tones and even experiment with your tones and take it about as far as you want to. At the end of the day, that's the purpose and the mission. So I'd love to hear your comments. I am always happy to talk more about my learning experience. Again, you'll see in the description a lot of the amps I've owned. And I wish you luck, and I appreciate your watching. Thanks for joining us today.